This week's guest is actually making her Broadway debut in the hit show Beetlejuice. However, this guest has been around the block with experience on tour, off-Broadway, and more, appearing in shows such as Avenue Q and the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. Oh my God, tongue twister every time. Everyone, welcome to Take a Bow, Dana Steingold. How are we, Dana?
I'm so good. How are you?
Oh my gosh, so good. So excited to do this with you. This is a blast. I've been wanting to have you on forever. I'm obsessed with Beetlejuice. Love your performance as the Girl Scout, for those of you
Thank
who
you.
don't know. Yeah, oh my God, so good. But we'll get into all of that because what I usually like to start my episodes off with is asking people what got them inspired to tell stories and want to be a performer.
Sure. So, I think I was sort of an energetic kid and I would kind of force people into being my audience. Yeah, I'm the oldest of 4 kids. So I sort of created my own productions in my living room, which I was always the director and the star, obviously.
Of course.
And I think my siblings were maybe getting a bit frustrated with me and my parents were seeking another outlet. And so they put me in dance class because I think that's sort of the natural progression. My parents both went to dental school. So nobody's theatrical in any way. So I don't even think it even occurred to them to think musicals.
Oh
and I just sort of loved dance class, and a friend in the class was auditioning for a community theater production at the Jewish Community Center in West Bloomfield, Michigan, of The King and I, different time.
Oh my gosh.
And it's an outrageous story, which is always so embarrassing to tell, that my theatrical debut was Prinzessin Yowlek in The King
No
and I.
way.
So offensive, terrible.
Great.
And
oh boy.
yeah, I want to say also that Maggie Keenan-Bolger was in that production with me, and several other people who are still in the business, and it's this very embarrassing story that we all talk about. But yeah, so I went to the audition. My mom was like, I don't know what this is. She doesn't even have anything to sing. And I was like, I've got this. And I did a fully staged version of Part of Your World.
Oh my
gosh.
Yes.
I booked it. So,
of course.
Totally. And honestly, I just kind of fell in love right away. And I think from there, I just kind of immersed myself in it and listened to every cast recording I could get my hands on. And luckily, this theater company sort of had this great children's theater and their main stage productions. And an incredible woman, Nancy Gerwin, ran it. And her son is Danny Gerwin, who is in Laurie and Little Women and Full Monty and whatnot. And he was very cool and on Broadway and a professional and always so kind to me. And he said to me hey, I think he was at University of Michigan at the time and I was pretty young. And he said hey, you have to go to this camp, Stage Door Manor. It will totally change your life. So I begged my parents to let me go. And they finally gave in 2 years later.
Oh my God.
And it really was, I always say it was getting off the bus and it was achieving nerd nirvana. People were just singing Sondheim lyrics in the lobby. And it truly was a scene from a movie. And I was sort of how and where did I land? And that totally changed the course of my life because I think it showed me that this was possible to be a career. And also I had just never been around people who were A, that in love with theater, but B, so gifted. And I think when you're around people who you just can look up to and emulate, and you're wow, I'm one with them. I'm on the same level. This is so cool. And I just, from there, I was this is the thing. So I think it was sort of summer camp where I decided that it was kind of the thing for me. And then I applied to college and ended up going to NYU because my parents were sort of the mind of if I was going to do this, just move to New York City.
Yeah.
So I applied
Makes
to
sense.
all the schools. Yeah. It was Michigan, Carnegie Mellon, and NYU were kind of my big choices. And NYU felt like a great fit for me just because I really wanted to do academics as well. I do love being a student. So it was kind of a nice mixture of being in a conservatory within a larger university, where I think some other schools like Michigan, which is amazing, but I grew up 30 minutes from Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
And you're definitely in the musical theater program. So,
oh my God.
Yeah.
So cool.
So I chose NYU. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God. And hey, I think it was worth it because here we are today.
Totally. Who knows? Like so many paths. And like I always say to people, it doesn't actually matter where you go to school because you're going to learn everywhere. And like each program has its own strengths and weaknesses. And like if you're ready to learn, you will receive and you will come out like better for it. So
Yeah.
school is school. Just get a degree in something.
Just get a degree in something.
Yeah.
Totally. You sound like my parents.
Yeah.
Amazing. So that's so fascinating hearing that like it was really summer camp that kind of did it for you, because here we are in this like whole COVID world where it's just like everything is like online, like all auditions, all the things, like everything is self-tapes, all of that. And it just made me think of like, doing a self tape with like my brother or my sister, like, how you did productions with them in your home, and then like going to like go do it with a friend or something. And it's like life changing, like even just like a
Yes.
little self tape scene just like makes all the difference. So just because it's like minded people are kind of like, I don't know, it's like a comfort thing. And I feel like it kind of brings out the best in you. And that's really what it takes to be a performer, is to be comfortable and to really like be yourself, like the
Oh,
fullest
yeah.
extent of yourself to tell the story.
Absolutely. And I think like, part of our job as human beings and actors is to like figure out who we are. And I think that that's the hardest work we can do, is figuring out who our authentic self is. But
Yes.
once you figure out, once you figure out how to bring that into a room, I always say to people when I teach, like, that is the thing people are interested in.
Yeah.
It's not you trying to be somebody else. It's truly like stepping into who you really are and bringing all the things that you think are wrong or weird or
Mm-hmm.
quirky about you. Like that is what is so charming and interesting about each individual.
Yep.
And when you also approach things that way, I think competition's like irrelevant,
Yeah.
because you're really only bringing your authentic self. So you're not in competition with anybody, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, but I think summer camp was for sure the first time I also realized like the most talented people were also the people I was going to learn from the most, and that it wasn't
Yes.
something to be afraid of. It was like so thrilling. And to this day, I feel like my favorite moments are being around people that I'm like almost like afraid to be around because I'm
Oh,
so in awe of their skills, But
sure.
I feel that's like when I'm learning the most. And it was true in school also, and it's still true for me today, that when I'm pushed out of my comfort zone and like the more uncomfortable I am, the more I'm learning actually.
Oh, yeah. Well, you
you
have
know?
to. You have to kind of let yourself be uncomfortable to put yourself in a position to succeed. Like in a way, it's like what we do is, yeah, we have to be ourselves, but we also have to be someone else and tell their story. And that's
Yeah.
kind of like uncomfortable in many ways. If you think about it in like, oh my God, I have to do the story justice and I have to perform in front of 1,500 people every night. Like that it's kind of what we do, allowing ourselves to be uncomfortable. So totally get that. Totally makes perfect sense. And
Yeah.
it's amazing. It's so weird what we do, but it's amazing.
So weird.
It's beautiful at the same time. I don't get it.
I know. No, it's like both things, but there are definitely days where I'm like, this is so bizarre
What
that this
is
is my
life?
job. Like,
Yes. Oh my God.
yeah.
Well, I have to talk to you about Beetlejuice because like iconic. And the show is just so beloved by literally all of Broadway. And we'll get into like the coming back and everything like that and all of that.
Sure.
But I want to start out at the beginning of like the process with the show, because I know you were with the show before it even came to Broadway. So when did you join the show, and what was it like kind of seeing this show be a 150 page or whatever it was script on paper to then what it is today?
Yeah. So I am one of a few people who have been around for quite a long time. The very first 29-hour reading sort of happened. Oh gosh, I want to say it might have been like 2016,
Oh my
2015.
gosh.
Yeah. And so honestly, like they wouldn't tell us what it was. They said that Warner Brothers had a property, and they didn't really tell us what it was till we kind of committed to it. All I knew is that I was playing a Girl Scout. And I was like,
Amazing.
okay. And then when I found out it was Beetlejuice, I was sort of like, was there a Girl Scout in that movie? Like, and I went and rewatched, and I was like, I don't recall. And then I thought about Adam Sandler values, and I was like, there was a Girl Scout in that.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so I saw it on the page, and I thought, I think I know what this is. I'm just going to make a big choice and like take a stab at it, and they'll probably replace me with a child in the future. I'm sure they're doing this as like we have to have an adult do this now because it's a reading format and whatever. And honestly, at every juncture, I kind of thought that that would be the time I wouldn't be asked back. And so
Wow.
I would say like every 6-7 months or so, we would do another stage of development, another workshop, another reading, eventually some staged labs to kind of see how it would work. And a handful of us, it was me, Leslie, Carrie, Jill, Danny, and I want to say, no, I think that's it for the very from the beginning to Broadway. And then that second round, Alex and Sophia came on, as well as Adam
Gotcha.
Danheiser and a couple other people. So we've all been like around the block with it, and we've seen it go through several incarnations.
Oh my gosh.
Some of which were very R-rated. And as you know, I'm sure you've heard about DC, which was like the full, am I allowed to say balls to the walls version on this?
Yes. Oh my God, of course.
I would say like they went all the way, and we loved that version. We had a lot of love for that version.
Oh yeah.
And I think then they kind of smartly realized this was an amazing journey, but maybe people were really focusing on Lydia's journey. And so if we could make it slightly more family friendly and still feel dangerous and fun, they could kind of have a bigger audience. But yeah, it's truly been incredible. The first reading, Lydia's mom was a character.
Oh.
Yeah. So in the netherworld, she met up with her mom, and she did find her, and her mom kind of sang the song that's in the home placement.
No way.
Now, yeah, that only.
So home wasn't always in it?
No, and actually home was,
Oh
it had the same melody, but it was it was called Running Away in DC. But that song, I'm trying to remember when that happened. It might have been like in the lab, one of the last labs, but no, there was always, I think they were waiting to find the right piece there.
Fascinating.
And yeah, it was called Running Away, but then very smartly they realized that wasn't really super active. She's not running away from anything at that point. She's running towards something. So I think then they sort of like revamped all the lyrics of that. But yeah, it's been such a crazy journey just to see all of the versions that we've had. We were saying the other night that we should do like at Spelling Bee, we used to do a Dirty Bee.
Yes.
Where we would do all of the jokes we weren't allowed to do.
Oh my God.
We were like, we should do like a Midnight Rocky Horror Show version of this.
100%.
It would be so much rehearsal and so much money. I'm sure that we'll never do it. But
even like a 54 Below show. Yeah, like something like fun where it's like all the deleted stuff.
Yeah, because there are some really good things that I can't even believe were said, to be honest, that I definitely can't say on this podcast.
That's awesome. I bet people would be all over that. Like, seriously, I bet people would love that. Just like the deleted versions of Beetlejuice. Oh my God. I'm obsessed with it.
I mean, I feel super lucky that they like allowed me to continue the journey. Like I really don't know how I got here. I can't lie to you. Like,
it's fascinating to hear that, like you were a Girl Scout, so you were like, oh, like, is this my last go around with it? Like, that's crazy. You obviously made a special impression, or you were doing something right. So that's cool. Did you even think that maybe you had like, I don't know, like an opportunity to be in the ensemble or something? Like, were you hoping that you would stay with the show, or is it kind of like, I don't know?
I think like with everything, this business is so crazy and there's so many ups and downs, and I do so many readings and workshops, and it's my favorite thing to do because I love figuring it out and like being on the ground floor of stuff and creating. And those are the most fun rooms to be in.
Oh yeah.
And again, I think the most creative rooms, and I would say also like where you learn the most, because you're like, oh, interesting to see how this person approaches readings versus like this person, and how everybody works differently. But yeah, I just I was like, I can't get attached to anything. I just have to like make strong choices and hope that they like them and will take me along for the ride. So I don't know if I ever thought like maybe the ensemble. I was also like, will this even happen? Because, I've been in this business a long time. I've had so many things like fall apart, like the Godspell revival in 2007 that I was supposed to be a part of. And I was supposed to make my Broadway debut then. And that fell apart like 3 days before we were supposed to start rehearsal.
Yep.
So there have been so many close calls or cancellations and almost, that I think it's taught me to just live in the moment, enjoy what's happening, and not really like hope too hard for anything to happen. And of course, easier said than done. We always like get attached to certain projects. but I think we all did think this piece was really special. And I think, Alex Timbers is so great and so collaborative. And I think he also sensed that we had from the beginning, like a family of people that were really creating the show, that it's a testament to him and to our creative team and the show that we're all still here, like all these years later. And it's because we really love it and really love each other.
Yeah.
And I've truly not ever been a part of a show where it's like this, like both backstage and on stage, just the coolest, chillest people, and everyone just truly has a great time, which is why I think everybody who comes has such a good time.
Exactly. You can totally tell on stage that like you guys are having, you love what you're doing, and it makes the
and I think that's part of the
the
joy.
audience. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So you were in DC and like you've been with the show for so long, and like yes, you've done tours, you've done the off Broadway before you even came to Broadway, but after doing the show in DC, you're a veteran and like you've done the show before, but like there's something different about coming to New York and having your first like Broadway bow. Like is it like that's kind of like unforgettable, right? So talk to me about your first Broadway bow with Beetlejuice.
Yeah, I will say it was very surreal. I think when you take in how big of a moment it is, if you actually did that in the moment, you would be frozen in time and you wouldn't be able to actually participate in the event.
Literally.
So in a weird way, it's like both incredible, but I felt the release after, because I think while you're doing it, if you really thought about, oh, this is the moment. Like also my words are, this is it, the day I've been waiting for. Like, what a joke. So
yeah, no, it's true though.
And so I think it was this really amazing moment. And I always say that like, I did have to wait a long time for this thing to happen, but it also was so magical because it really does happen when all things are right. And it was such a perfect example. It brought so many pieces of my life together. Like Connor, our choreographer, we went to summer camp together. We met during the very first show at Stage Door Manor. He played my dad and the boyfriend.
No.
He was very upset because we were the same age.
Oh my gosh. Hilarious.
Horrified. And when he first was like leaving the business, like not leaving the business, but deciding he didn't want to perform anymore and really wanted to transition into being a director choreographer, I got him his first job working on a show that my friends had written. And then that sort of led to, other collaborations, which ultimately led him to Beetlejuice. So we've worked together. And if I had to put like all the wish list items, like if I had written it and buried it in a box somewhere, like originating a song on a cast recording and originating a role and getting to the Tony Awards and the Thanksgiving Day Parade, like I got to do them all with this. So in a way, like, yeah, I could have made my Broadway debut as a replacement a billion times or whatever, but it sort of worked out that this was like the thing and it was absolutely the right thing. And I got to build it from the ground up. So it was super rewarding. But I would say that like that first Broadway bow, like I was so happy. And then the enormity of just sort of like all the years that and things that it took to get there hit me like after. And I walked off stage and I sat in the dressing room and Jill looked at me and was like, you did it. And I just burst into tears.
Oh, stop.
Yeah. And I just cried for like a solid 20 minutes, but in like a great way, because it was just like this really overwhelming, like gratitude, but also that it was the right thing and that I felt ready to receive it also. Because I truthfully think that if I had been younger, I don't know that I would have appreciated it in the way that I step into it now, like very fully being like, this is a special experience. This could happen again. This could never happen again.
Right.
And so I think, I don't know. And also being surrounded by just great people who also are so full of gratitude and grateful to be there. So
totally. I'm with you. The more I do, like, the more I do this kind of thing and like talk to people about like what it means to like be on Broadway. Like I came from West Virginia, which is like in the middle of nowhere, like no one knows it's a state. They think I'm from Virginia and it's like, no, it's West Virginia. And there's no theater there. There's no theater there. You have to go to like Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to do theater. And so like, I knew nothing about it. And like, I took my first Broadway bow at 12 and I didn't understand it. Like I truly just was like, oh, cool. Like, this is great. This is so much fun. Like I was just having the time of my life. But now, like, as I get older and everything, and like my voice changed, and I'm trying to like find myself again as a performer and all the things, I'm like, who knows if this is going to happen again? Like, I didn't realize how amazing it would be to be on Broadway, or like what it meant to be on Broadway. Like, it's so true that like when you're young and you're kind of just like innocent and you're naive to it all, and then like as you grow up, you kind of start to appreciate it and like respect the amount of work it took. Because as you're a kid, you know, you have all this energy, like you were talking about earlier, that you're just kind of always going, and you're like, great, this is so much fun. I'm performing with friends, you know? So like you just you don't even know that like you're making money. Like you don't know it's a job, you know? You're just like legit having the time of your life.
Too, you know, like there's also something so beautiful in that, because I always say like I did my best work at 15.
Yes.
Like, you don't know any better, you know, like there's no one telling you can't. Like I was like, well, yes, I can play the witch and Into the Woods at 16. That seems reasonable.
Exactly.
Like, you know, like I will be Sally and Me and My Girl. Absolutely. Like, and you're 14, you're like, yeah, that seems totally great.
And it's also just like, you know, I don't know, for me at least, like as the more and more I get older, like the more, I don't know, like in my head I get, like the more self-conscious I get or something. So like I'm 100% with you, where I was like, I was doing my best work as a kid and I just didn't have a care in the world what other people thought of me. And then like the whole world changed all of a sudden overnight. And it's like, why do I care so much now? I'm like so like tense now going into auditions.
Absolutely. I actually okay, another embarrassing crying story for Dana Steingold.
Yes, give me
it. Now understand, I do cry a lot.
You should though. You're in touch with your emotions. It's great.
Yeah, and like I cry, it's like in a positive way. I cry like out of joy a lot because I like get really happy for my friend, whatever. So this is like sort of a negative but release cry. When Godspell got canceled, I sort of said like, okay, I have like 48 hours to be like upset and sulk and stomp around my apartment in my underwear, and then I have to like get a job. Right. Because that's the reality. Like I left my job on tour to like do this Broadway show, and now I have to like get another gig.
Wow.
And my friend was like, yeah.
Oh my God.
And my friend was like, it was so wild. And my friend was like, why don't we go see title of show? And I said, okay, great. That'll really cheer me up. Cut to Heidi Blickenstaff gets up. One day I'll meet her and I'll be like, that really moved me in a way that I can't explain. She got up and sang Way Back to When.
Yes.
And when I tell you that song may as well have been called, like, I wish I could go back to theater camp, which really is what I needed that day. But I was with my best friend, and I mean, I lost it. Like, I was bawling.
Yes.
In a way that was not normal. And the person next to me was probably like, what is this girl's journey? What is she going through?
Right.
But it's just so funny. And then I had that good cry, and I was like, I feel better. Like, I can move forward.
Oh my God. Who knew that you just needed Heidi Blickenstaff in your life, you know?
Yeah, but it was like chasing to like going back to before, when you like, didn't know the politics, you didn't know the like money invested and like all your dreams, you know, you just didn't realize like what a miracle it is when you get a job, because so many people have to say yes and agree, and that it's just so hard. So yeah, that song really spoke to me that day. And it was just because like you could go back to that innocent time where you were just like doing your best work because like you just didn't believe, no one had told you no yet.
Right.
You know, or like, I don't know. So we just don't second guess ourselves, and we just make big choices because it seems like, you know, what you're supposed to do, and you're not judging yourself yet. And then the trick is like circling back to try to get back to that place so that you can like fully step into like what you're supposed to be doing. But it's a constant journey as well, because I don't think any of us ever achieve it. There are days, Leslie and I were just talking last night, like we were just saying like some days you're just like, am I even good at this?
Right. No, seriously. Like, what am I doing here?
What am I doing?
Yeah. Oh my God.
And it happens. And I think if you didn't feel that way, like there'd be something wrong with you, or you're lying.
Right.
It's like people who say they never get nervous. And I'm like, okay. I mean, we all have ways of dealing with it, but certainly there are moments where you're working through nerves.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure. And if not, it's just like adrenaline. Like it's like it's a form of nerves, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Everyone's nerves manifest in different ways, you know, and hopefully it manifests in a way that you can work through and like perform. But
I know, I'm just like thinking back to your story. Like I can't imagine just like being told that like you're cast in a Broadway show, and it's just like literally 3 days before rehearsal, it's just like, It's not happening. Because I spoke to
Totally.
Telly Leung last week's episode.
Oh, he was in that production.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So it's funny that like, you know, back to back, like kind of crossover thing, but like it was fascinating just like to think about that when I saw that. Cause I didn't even know that happened until I was talking to Telly and did some research on him and everything. And then I saw that you were involved in that production too. I was like, oh my God, like cannot imagine living through a time where it's just like you're promised something so amazing. And for your case, like making your Broadway debut, Telly is like a vet. But so just like to go through that, I can't imagine. I can't imagine what you were dealing with. So, but hey, it was theater that saved you and brought you back. So
totally. And honestly, like it really was not great. I'm not going to lie to you, but it also was one of those things where like you learn from it and you say, okay, what am I supposed to take from this experience?
Right.
Sometimes bad things just happen. There's no rhyme or reason. And the next time I got to work with the director, Danny Goldstein, he gave me like the best job, which was, and I'll tell you why, which was grease at paper mill, which you wouldn't be like, that's the best job. Yeah. But the people I was with became best friends on that show. And so it's like weird that like I had to lose this job, but it ended up bringing me like my best friends on another job. So it was like, he gave me the worst experience and then the ultimate gift.
Absolutely.
So I always am like, thank you. Cause he's like our match. We call him the matchmaker because like, it was so beautiful. And Telly was in that too.
Oh my God. That's so funny. Yeah. But I mean, it's so true. Like you had to go through those lows to experience and appreciate the highs and like the good parts of like your career and like appreciate it even more. But it's crazy times. Anyways,
crazy.
I gotta go back to Beetlejuice. Okay. Because so it's open and all the things and it's killing it. It's doing so well. It's a hit. You know, like people like when it was coming to Broadway, it was like, oh, Beetlejuice is coming to Broadway? Like what is happening? Like how is this going to work? But everyone loved it. Right. And then all of a sudden the COVID pandemic hit and it announced that it was closing. So, I mean, did you ever think that it was possible to like come back and like once Music Man said that they were going to go into the Winter Garden, then it was just like, what's going through your guys' mind?
So again, with Beetlejuice, I'm always like, we've been on such a journey. Yeah. Never say never with this show. Right. Like we are down, but we are not out. You know, I think what's interesting is, you know, when we opened, we were very much not a hit. I think we got very mixed reviews out of town. And then we came in and we were all a little bit nervous because we were essentially doing a totally different version of the show we had done out of town. And we were sort of like, okay, like we trust everyone on the team so much. We trust this is going to work. But we all first read the new script and we were like, okay, this is definitely a softer version. So when we opened, I think everybody who came was having a great time, but I think there was sort of a bit of a stigma around it. And I think people were almost not embarrassed to be like, I loved it. But a lot of people in the business, I think were coming being like, this is my favorite thing I've seen all year. Right. You know, and you're like, yes, just come. It's so fun. And I think also like with such great performances, you have like Leslie and you had,
oh my God,
obviously Alex and Sophia and just everyone doing such great work. And I think we all loved what we were doing so much. So we thought we were going to close pretty early on because we were super nervous. And then truly the thing that changed for us was our performance on the Tony Awards and the cast album dropping that week. And all of a sudden it just took off. Like it was so crazy. And I think just people understanding what the show was and the tone of the show, I think they realized like, oh, this is actually not a kid show. And it's so funny and irreverent. And so I think every time we do a TV appearance, it helps us. But specifically, I think that Tony performance and the cast album.
That Tony performance was like iconic.
And honestly, every time we do something like that is truly a testament to, I think, Alex Timber's skill of knowing how to direct for TV. And like, this is going to work for the show. It's not what we do in the show, but it's going to sell the show the best way. And Brightman is so brilliant at all of those appearances. Brilliant. And always learning like new lyrics. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we were sort of like hoping to make it through the summer.
Yeah.
And slowly things just started picking up and we were like, wow, people are really coming to the show. And then, you know, we were engaging with people online because we were getting so many messages from kids and teenagers saying how much they related to the show. It meant so much to them. And we would come out of the stage door and slowly like what started as, you know, 20 people grew to like 50. And then it grew to like 100, and then it grew to like around the block to the Winter Garden.
It's insane.
And we realized something else was happening. And then of course Presley started doing the TikToks, and we were making backstage TikToks,
Yes.
and then people were doing all this cosplay on TikTok of the album. And so I think it was just all of these things coming together at just the right time. And our show all of a sudden went overnight, it felt like, from being like possibly on the brink of closure to being a huge smash success that was like selling out and breaking box office records.
Yeah.
So I think when we found out about the Music Man situation, they told us, I want to say it was like right before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And they were like, we're working really hard to move the show, and this is not by any means like a closing notice. We have to vacate this theater. So we're going to promote it as that we're vacating, and that's what we're going to do. And I know our producers worked really, really hard to try to get us to stay in there, but ultimately it was what it was.
Right.
And saw the Music Man, loved it.
Yeah.
It was actually quite healing to like go back to the theater and hear music in there again and hear people laughing, just because after COVID, I was like, the last time I came in here, like we took a bow, and then the last time I was moving out, and it was just so sad and silent. And so it was so nice to see like life in there.
Right.
So yeah, it was just like, I think we thought, you know, we're just going to see what happens. We're going to enjoy every day we have until June 6th.
Yeah.
And then I think I'm allowed to say this now. We found out we were going to move theaters. It was a different theater than we have now.
Oh.
And then the pandemic hit.
Oh, wow.
And so we took that Tuesday night vow, and we were, you know, this doesn't age well, but we definitely were like making jokes about like going up to the door and being like, but we're really not supposed to. Why? Coronavirus. We were like, please let us do it, please.
Yes.
Just, you know, at the time, I don't think any of us knew how serious it was.
No.
And we were like, okay, we're not doing the stage tour. All right. You know,
Right.
We didn't know. So we thought we were going home for 2 weeks. And then slowly, I think we realized it was not going to be 2 weeks.
Yep.
And then we got that notification we were going to have a Zoom, and they told us that, you know, we're going to announce that we're closing early because they don't know when Broadway's returning. And they were very kind on that call as well. Same thing, like, we will not stop until we try to get the story, you know, this shouldn't be the end. And we can't make any promises, but we're going to work extremely hard. And they surely lived up to their words. So yeah, but at the same time, you know, you spent 2 years, and I think we had hope, but also you don't want to have too much hope.
Yep.
Because it would be so devastating. So I think we all just sort of like cautiously put it to bed, but it was just like we were writing a new chapter. We weren't like closing the book kind of thing. And thank goodness, I think that we didn't. But on opening night, it was both so joyous and also very healing. And it was also a little painful because I think that was the closure of the first journey for us, as well as the start of a new one.
Right.
And so it was so fantastic to be back, but it also is like bittersweet because we were missing people from our like original family, and everyone we have now who's new is amazing, but it was sad to be missing certain people, you know, but a lot of them were there in the audience, which was really great.
Oh,
yeah. But yeah, it's been totally surreal. Like I truly still can't believe that we're like back and this is happened.
I know.
Like, I don't know of another situation where this has happened, basically backed by popular demand. I don't know.
No, literally, it's such a testament to your fans. Your fans are literally like second to none. I mean, you have some of the best fans on Broadway. Seriously, they show up in cosplay. They're doing the whole TikTok. They have the fan art of the wall in the marquee is insane. Just like obsessed with all of it.
Another thing that made me cry.
Yeah. Oh my God. But like rightfully so, because I think I had a couple of tears walking past that too. But like when Beetlejuice announced that they were closing during the pandemic, like early, they took to Twitter, they took to everywhere, and like were doing petitions. Like they were everything, like literally. And so like talk to me about what the fans mean to you and to this show.
I mean, I think everyone would agree that the fans of our show, we have the best fans in the world. It can be both beautiful and overwhelming at the same time. It's an interesting thing because our show centers around a girl who's, and I think this is very important, who's like not a princess, and she's not trying to find love or even like make a friend. She just is sort of moving through very real human emotions and moving through grief. And I think so many people connect with that, and we do it all through humor, of course, but it's still dealing with like, you know, at the beginning of Say My Name, she's about to jump off the roof. She's contemplating suicide, you know? And so I think it's been interesting just because we have so many people who are like, I didn't feel seen. And then I sort of found this like online community of people who liked the show and felt seen by the show as well. And now they've become like friends. And the first time they would meet would be at the stage door of our show, which that is like the most beautiful thing I could possibly think of. And so, you know, it seems so silly because you're like, it's Beetlejuice, you know, but it really like means something to so many people. And they're sort of like our extended family and like part of the fabric of our show. And I think one of the things we miss most, obviously, is having that stage door engagement right now, because I think it is a huge part of the culture of our show. But yeah, we certainly have the world's most amazing fans, and the art we receive and the notes. I've received so many like letters and messages, and it really all just means so much to everybody. And it's very cool to be a part of something that means this much to people, you know. And again, I don't know if that will ever happen again. So I think we're all just taking that experience in for what it is, which is like a very special, like once in a lifetime experience.
So special. So you also understudy Lydia.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so talk to me about that, because you mentioned her, like her kind of arc where in Say My Name, she's literally contemplating suicide and then like has to go through this emotional roller coaster of her mom dying and then like kind of befriending Beetlejuice, and like all these things are going on, and there's so many emotions that have to do with that character. That arc is so beautiful. And you can tell they really worked on like figuring that out. Talk to me about that track and what it means to understudy such an iconic character.
Yeah. I mean, I try not to think about that part of it. But, you know, I think it's so interesting because all of us who have done it are all so different. And so it's such a beautiful thing because everybody can bring their own self. And we've had such an amazing and supportive associate team and stage management team that has truly let us like find our own versions of the show. Like certainly I could never do what Sophia does, or, you know what I mean? Or what Elizabeth does. Like we're all such different humans. But I think, you know, it kind of came as a surprise. I think it just made natural sense to them that the Girl Scout would be the track that like covered Lydia. And so it came about like right before DC. It was like never something we had discussed prior. And so they were like, just come in. We're just going to like sing Dead Mom and do like a scene. And it's just going to be like, it was very chill. It was just like our musical director, Chris and Timbers and Rachel Hoffman. And I was like, am I like auditioning for my job right now? Like, I don't know what I just was like, I'm so confused. Like, so I was like, I guess I'm just going to work on this material. I think I know what this is, you know? And I went in the room, I did it, I left. And later on, Rachel Hoffman was like, oh no, that was literally just, we just had to like see you could do it. And like, it was just like checking a box off. And I was like, you should really tell people that before they go in the room.
Yep.
I can't remember she told my agent. I don't remember what it was, but I was like, we should be clearer. But I still was sort of like, I will be like Snowstorm Lydia. Like when people like can't make it from New Jersey, like, you know, like I'll go on in like February, whatever. And also because I was like, I have my own thing to do in the show. And, you know, so, and that was truly enough for me. So I was like, this is just like an added bonus, I guess. Or stressor, if you will. You know,
Depends on how you want to look at it.
But once I sort of like had the idea, I was like, well, this is actually really fun because I've made a career mostly of like dark comedic roles, you know what I mean? And all of like that canon. So I was like, this is so fun because it kind of pulls together all of that plus like, I guess for lack of a better word, that like sort of like seeker, that sort of like Eponine, you know, kind of version of all those characters too. And it's such a great score. So I was like, okay, great. Like I'll just go, I'll see what happens. And I ended up going on a lot, and that was really exciting. And certainly like that first time you come through the floor, like is very cool.
I can't imagine.
It's very, very cool. I can't lie to you. And it was just really great because like Brightman and I went to college together, and
Oh,
yeah, and we've also done a bunch of shows where like off Broadway where we made like $25 a show with like a curtain dividing our dressing room that we just did for fun. So we were like, this is the same, but like just like bigger. So it's fun because every time I get to go on, it's like working with like A, he's an amazing scene partner to begin with, but B, it's like this old friend. So it actually feels so familial and so comfortable. And it's like we're just doing a play in the basement for like the Fringe Festival again. You know what I mean? So it's weird. It's like very big, but it also feels very small.
totally.
And yeah, and it's just really fun. And in my track, I actually don't interact with a lot of people on stage, other than Elizabeth,
Right.
or whoever is in that track. Otherwise I just like kind of stand alone and on zero and sing. So it's so fun to get to like engage with everybody and do scene work and like really see everybody on stage.
Yeah.
So it's always like a joy to kind of get to go on and like play with everybody.
Oh, I love it.
Those are all my favorite moments. Like all the group numbers are my favorite.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's fun to be in them.
They're so fun.
Like I don't get to do that every day.
The whole show is so fun. I mean, literally, it's so good. It literally, the entire time, like as an audience member, your cheeks hurt after watching it because you're literally smiling the whole time. I mean, there's a couple sad parts and everything, but like they make light out of it almost instantly.
Yes.
Because they want you to like, it is a feel good show. I don't know. It's kind of bizarre when you really think about it because they do talk about suicide and losing your parents and like all these things, but like they do try to make it kind of fun and enjoyable all at the same time. So yeah, like you said, like the whole show is so fun, and I mean, it's no wonder why literally everybody loves the show, and no one has a problem saying it now. Like they're not shy to say it now. So I have to ask you because I'm dying to ask you. You play a Girl Scout in the show, and I saw on your Instagram that you're a snack connoisseur and like a snack.
Oh, yeah.
What did it say? A snack enthusiast. I love that. So I have to ask you, like, do you have a favorite Girl Scout cookie?
Okay, so I get asked this a lot.
Do you?
I have celiac, which is like the irony is not lost on me. So I basically have like one choice. I think there's two choices now. I think they came out with a second gluten-free cookie.
Oh.
And it's a toffee flavor. I can't say it's my favorite thing or like a shortbread, but I really like coconut. So if I could, I'm sure it would be a Samoa.
Okay. I like it.
You know, I mean,
that's my favorite. And I'm not even a coconut guy. But I love Samoas, and that's like the one thing I will say. It's an unpopular opinion because my whole family, their favorite are Thin Mint, and I'm just like
a good old standby.
I am so against Thin Mints. I have like beef with Thin Mints because I just don't think mint should be in like cookies. Like that's a time to like snack and like be unhealthy, and like mints are kind of like for gum, you know, just keep it in gum. Anyways.
No, I hear that. I totally see that. I would go with like Samoa or probably Tag Along as the peanut butter.
Tag Alongs. Oh my God. Those hit too.
So yeah, it would be one of those for me, I think.
Okay. But you're a toffee
but
girl
also
too,
like
right?
if we're out there, I like toffee.
Okay. Okay.
You know.
It's kind of there. Okay.
But yeah, if anyone's listening, make more gluten-free flavors, please.
Gluten-free. Yep. Are you gluten-free? Like, are you fully gluten-free?
Yeah, I have celiac, so like I actually have to be. So like I don't have soy sauce. I have like nothing. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's fascinating. Like, I could imagine. I could not do it. I cannot do the whole gluten-free thing. All I do is it's so bad. My diet is so bad. That's a whole other conversation. I want to talk to you briefly about Avenue Q because it's another show that you were in, and honestly, like in a way, minus like the sex things, I guess it could remind people of Beetlejuice with like the raunchiness, comedy and kind of thing, and the dark kind of comedy stuff. Talk to me about, I mean, what Avenue Q is like, and like having a puppet as like your character. I don't know, like I can't imagine what that's like.
It's very strange. Obviously, I come not from the puppeteer world, so I had to approach it as an actor. And they kind of at that final callback, like you go to puppet camp before it, which sounds very cool, but in actuality, you're like in a room at Ripley Greer, sitting in like a folded metal chair with a puppet, like learning how to do sync and like how to walk with a puppet, you know, and like so you're literally going like A, B, C, D, like
so
W,
bizarre.
you know. And they basically give you all the skills you could need to like get you through the callback. And then of course you get like much more in depth, like if you get cast, but it's sort of to see who has like a natural affinity for it. And so you do the final callback with the puppets. It's very stressful.
Yeah.
I remember they taped it. I don't know if that's like normal, but they did tape mine. And I was like, this is bad because they will forget if I was bad at the puppet.
Right.
But they won't forget if they can look at the tape and remind themselves of my puppet. And also like, you know, eye focus is really hard. And when you're in the camera, especially, like it's such an important thing. And I was like, oh, my puppet is just going to be looking side to side. This is terrible. So I never thought I would hear again. But luckily I did. And it's just, honestly, it's such a fun show to be a part of. Another one where you just laugh every day. And it presents its own unique challenges because I basically had to work backwards as an actor. Like I'm very much somebody who learns on my feet. I don't really memorize before I get on my feet. I kind of do it as I go. And I just like to like play and find things.
Yep.
But with the puppet, you can't be as organic as you'd like to be because the puppet has to follow you, if that makes sense. So like I had to sort of be a lot more, not that I'm not consistent, but I had to be more consistent in all of my choices until I was a competent and confident enough puppeteer that if I did something new, my puppet could also do it. And it is very stressful. I remember right before my first show, the stage manager was like, you haven't cried yet. And I said, oh, does everyone cry? And she goes, oh, everybody who plays Kate Monster cries. But yeah, I spent like a month. They give you like a month with the puppet. So I just used my computer and I would record myself doing things to be like, that looks like something, or that doesn't look like what I think it looks like. Which is like an actor's nightmare to watch yourself. But I was only watching the puppet. Yeah. And so, you know, I would say like you basically start at like a basic / intermediate level when you start the show. And then it takes several months to get comfortable. And I would by no means call myself like a great puppeteer at all, but I was at least confident enough at the end of my time that I felt free and that I could like play and try things. But it's also weird because you have a second hander who's sometimes voicing you or puppeteering. So it's like, you also can't make a choice on the fly that you haven't talked to them about. So it's just a bit different than a normal show just because you can't like just engage in the scene and try something new.
Yeah.
You know?
It's kind of like defying the laws of acting, of just like listening and reacting kind of.
Yeah, it's totally crazy. But then when you see, so like obviously I was not an excellent puppeteer. I came from a different place. But when you see like Stephanie do it, you just, it's so mesmerizing. Like the puppeteering is so good that you're like, I will just. It's like being on another planet. You're just like, I will never be that good. And this is so amazing to watch because that puppet is so alive. But I remember like, they were like, well, you know, the goal is that people watch the puppet and not you. And I was like, ooh,
yep.
So not.
Totally. I can't imagine. It's got to be so hard, and like having like puppets be your scene partner, kind of, because you like don't want to like look at the puppeteer, I guess, because you're
not allowed to.
Yeah,
we're told to look the puppet in the eye.
It's so bizarre.
It's so crazy. So you know when you catch someone's eye, something's gone terribly wrong.
Right.
Like, like that's like the giggle start, or like someone's like one time my ear fell off.
What?
Of Lucy, and I just came off the stage and I was like, what flew? And it was fully her ear.
Oh my word.
So like it's like those moments where everyone's puppets sort of like start to like tumble down low because everyone's giggling, and so you just have to kind of like laugh together.
Hilarious.
Yeah, I've had like puppet ears fall off. Like I think my Princeton had his eye fall off, knowing everyone's a little bit racist one night. And I took like every part of my being to like keep moving forward. Yeah. And I just had to look, like I changed the blocking, had to like turn the other way. So like, there's just no possible way I can look at this Princeton with one eye.
No. That's hilarious.
It was like slowly falling off. So at first it was like hanging on by a thread, which was even crazier.
My God.
It was bad. And then we started doing like the head box, and I was like, and that's when it flew.
Oh my God. I can't imagine.
Puppets are a whole Yeah, they're like, don't work with animals or children, but I'd also maybe say puppet.
Right. I know. I love working with animals and children. What the heck? I hate that
Same.
saying.
Animals anytime.
Yes. Screw the puppets. No, not actually. We love puppets. We love Avenue Q.
With love.
Yes.
Absolute love.
Do they have like, you know, like when you're in like a, nothing against Avenue Q, but like a normal show with like scene partners, they have lift calls and everything like that. Do they have like a puppet call where you can kind of like do the puppets a couple minutes before the show and I don't know, rehearse?
They don't have a puppet call, but they do have a puppet wrangler who's sort of like in the same way that like you'd have a wig department and there's somebody who like takes care of that. They brush the hair, they style them every day because like, you know, they all come off looking crazy because they have like human hair and all of that. It's actually really weird when you think about it.
Yeah.
And it's such a sad room because it's just they have like their own hooks and there's, I don't remember at this point how many puppets in the show, but let's say it's like 45 or something. And they're all just hanging there like, you know, like
no movement whatsoever. Oh my God, that sounds terrifying, actually.
No, and it's one of the rules of the show, actually, that we're never supposed to show anybody. Like, they should always be alive if you're taking a photo or if you're at a press event. You can never like rest because they don't ever want to see the puppet like, you know, take a dip or take a nap.
Right.
So yeah, I remember we hosted. I want to say it was like the Macy's. It was like the Easter fashion show or something, and we were up there for so long and we couldn't take a break. And like, oh my gosh, my arm is gonna fall off.
Yeah. Need some circulation going. What the heck?
Yeah, it's definitely the strangely most athletic thing I've ever done because I was like, this is really hard.
Oh my God. That's hilarious.
My biceps got huge.
Yeah, I can't imagine. It sounds very bizarre. And like people don't like realize that, you know, like as an audience perspective, you're just like, oh yeah, like sure. Like you just get used to it and it's just, you don't realize like the kind of work that it takes to do that. But yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, Dana, I mean, this has been fantastic. I don't want to keep you too much longer because you got a show to get to tonight. But this has been seriously so amazing. And I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing all these fabulous stories. This has been a joy.
It's so nice to meet you.
Yes, it was so nice to meet you.
My AirPod falls out.
Oh, that's okay.
Perfect timing.
No worries. Yeah. Well, thank you so much again. And break a leg on the rest of your run over at Beetlejuice.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course.